Imagine this. One day you wake up and, you make breakfast, you head to the airport, kiss your family goodbye. You're going on a work trip, right? Maybe they're coming with you. I don't know. You come home. They have
to come with you.
They'd have to come with you in this scenario. I guess I didn't think about it. So let me role play this again. So imagine this. You wake up, you take the family on a short vacation. Maybe you're working, but anyway, you leave your house for a few days, okay? And a few days later, you come home to find out there's illegal aliens living in your home, sleeping in your bed. Then you call the police because you think that's the right thing to do, right? To get this person out of my house. But thanks to squatters' rights and thanks to an incompetent prosecution system right now, the police can't do anything about it. And you're arrested for trespassing on your own home. That's exactly what's happening right now. Illegals know this, and it's happening all over the United States. This is not some isolated incident. Many states have very lax squatters laws. Every state is different. And illegal aliens are spreading this information to tell other illegal immigrants to find a vacant house or one that has like a sign up like for rent. If you move in, guess what? You get to claim rights on that house, claiming squatters' rights. Here's one. This illegal immigrant posted this, and this has gone viral overnight, claiming that his friends have already taken over 7 houses and alerting other illegal immigrants, do this in the United States.
Mi gente, he pensado invadir una casa en United States, ya que me enteré que existe una ley que dice que si una casa no está habitada, podemos expropiarla. Capichi, muchachos, aquí en United States también se aplica la de invasión de terreno. Y creo que ese será mi próximo negocio. Invadir casas abandonadas, ya que me he buscado unos códigos con mis amigos africanos y me dijeron que ya llevan como 7 casas expropiadas. Y como dice el dicho, papi, hay que buscar la vuelta. Y la vuelta ahorita mismo es invadir casas, ya que nos encontramos en situación de calle y es la única manera que tenemos para no vivir en la calle y no ser una carga pública. Capichi, la ley dice que las casas abandonadas, deterioradas y que esté en mal estado, podemos llegar y repararlas, vivir en ellas y si podemos venderla, hasta pedir créditos con ella. ¿Qué dicen ustedes?
Yeah, that's true. They teach you that in real estate school.
Right.
I have a real estate license.
You have a real estate license. This was taught. You can study this in where you got it in New Jersey specifically. But this is all over the United States, and every state's laws are different. So did he say anything inaccurate there?
No. And in fact, one of the most lenient states for squatters' rights to become property owners is Texas. It has one of the shortest habitation laws.
Yeah, and so does California.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing, right? So forget the laws for a second. Forget like squatters' laws, because some of you might be lawyers out there. You might be saying, yeah, but the laws are this, 5 years, you have to be in the property, et cetera. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter at all, actually, what the squatters' laws are, because these individuals can take over these homes, and the prosecution right now is so lax. The police force is not dealing with this, and this is not even rising up to the level of anything that they're concerned about. So forget even the laws. They're just living in homes and can take over these homes, and you have no recourse about it. The New York Post reports that over 1,200 homes have already been taken over by squatters in the Atlanta area, turning homes into drug dens, strip clubs, and more. Squatters take over 1,200 homes in Atlanta. Illegal strip clubs terrorize neighborhoods. Is this even America? The New York Post headline says. One homeowner came home, didn't know what to do, and he saw prostitutes in his home. He just ran out of there.
I didn't walk in on a family eating dinner. I walked in on weapons, a prostitute, a bunch of dogs in the back. I just jumped the fence and ran. I didn't know what else to do.
I mean, imagine that he can like laugh about it, or I mean, because what else are you going to do? I mean,
because he lived to tell.
Yeah. Yeah, they could have shot him or something, or who knows, right? In another incident, you go ahead, Phil. Go ahead, David.
Well, I was going to say they encourage people to use the court system to take care of this, but a lot of these, like some of these people are just, it's like an investment property that to be a little bit extra income and some kind of thing for their legacy. and they can't afford to go through the court system. But that's like the only thing they say, oh, just take them to court. But
Yeah,
I'm like,
but yeah,
okay,
and then what
lawyers,
happens?
it's-
Right. So then what happens in the months that you're taking someone to court? You have no rights to that home. You're trespassing on that home.
In New Jersey, we had a renter who had not paid rent in 2 years and couldn't even get her off the property. And we owned it. She had a lease that she had not paid. And I still could not get the police to enforce to evict her,
Yeah.
no matter what, right?
And we
So
had to use lawyers, go through the whole process,
Yeah,
through
it
an
was
eviction
super
process.
expensive and stressful.
And that's a typical eviction process.
Right.
Right. So what they're saying is don't even sign a lease. Don't even use the normal eviction process. Don't use a lease. Don't get a lease. Don't sign a lease. Just break into the house.
Well, my point is, if you can't even evict formal renters, and then you absolutely are not going to be able to evict someone who's not. And a new report today shows that at least 200,000 migrant deportation cases were thrown out just because the U.S. didn't properly file its paperwork. Wazowski. So you think that, we're going to be able to enforce laws, squatters' laws, when we can't even properly enforce deportation cases?
Of course not. As J.J. Carroll pointed out on our show yesterday, they're not vetting any of these individuals. The system is completely overwhelmed. They're not doing any of this. You think they have some sort of proper paperwork? No, they don't have any of this. In another incident, U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Dahlia Dower was on deployment, came home to her home, and found convicted criminals squatting in her home.
Oh, that's way to protect veterans while they go overseas. And
So
fight
they're
for us.
overseas. Yes, they're overseas on deployment. They come home and their home is literally taken over by an invasion army. Like, can you think about the irony in that for a moment?
That's wild.
Now, this is happening all over the country. Here's Houston.
A group of trespassers is living in a Houston woman's home, and she doesn't know how to get them out. That house was listed for lease, but when some prospective tenants went for a visit last week, they found a group of people living inside.
Yeah, it's going to make it difficult for you to lease that home. And so this is the strategy, right? Find these homes that are listed for rent, I guess, listed for lease, call up your illegal immigrant friends and say, hey, 123 Main Street, let's smash in the window. Let's kick in the door. Let's move in. And now that property is under their control.
Even if you are somehow able to get them out with the county sheriff or something, we know as when we've had squatters in properties that we have been in between renters before, they mess it up completely. They don't take good care of it. We've had just thousands of dollars in damages before. Someone pooped in the vents and we had to get specific types of cleaners in there to remember that.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah, so they're going to destroy the property.
Yeah.
I mean, this is exactly what's going to happen. They're going to destroy the property. And, the United States has a housing crisis to begin with. There's not enough homes in the United States for Americans. We need 3 million units, 3 million homes just for Americans, not illegal immigrants. Homeowners or builders have been slowed down. The pandemic slowed everything down, right? So they couldn't build, couldn't get materials. And now that they finally got caught back up again, of course, we have higher interest rates. Now we've got an economy that's, clamped down for millennials that can't afford homes. So we have a housing crisis. We have an affordable housing crisis in the United States to begin with. Now, on top of it, add in a layer of illegal immigrants who need a place to live.
The government truly hates property owners. They hate you.
Apparently, even though the tax code is written to benefit property owners, right? The idea of the American dream. But forget it. Maryland, same thing. Maryland residents come home, find out squatters living in her bedroom, catches them on camera. They sold off all of her private belongings, $49,000 in stuff that they cleaned out of the house and sold. And she there confronts them right in the house. And finally, it's like they wake up and they're sleeping in the middle of the afternoon. And then I guess they left. But nevertheless, $49,000 in material sold off. A woman in Maryland came home from vacation, found squatters sleeping in her bed. And again, can you imagine that, walking in and seeing these people just asleep in your bed?
No.
I would freak. I mean, I would do worse than that, beyond just freak. And I certainly wouldn't run away. This video, of course, over the past 48 hours has gone viral. This is an unbelievable story of a woman who's going to confront them, calls the police, there's squatters in this property. And then she, the owner, gets arrested for trespassing on her own property.
Here, this guy just forced himself into my house.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did.
No, he did
And
not.
so did you.
Ma'am.
You broke through the front door.
Officer.
The man called the police on her.
So why is it that I have to leave and he doesn't have to leave?
Because technically he can't be kicked out. We need to go to court.
They consider this a landlord-tenant issue. And by law, it has to be handled through the housing court, not with police.
Dell, you're getting arrested right now?
I'm being arrested.
For what?
For being in
my own home.
That's crazy.
This is America. What the hell is happening?
Issue?
Yeah. And again, this is the issue, right? Well, we don't know. We don't know. There's a landlord-tenant issue. You got to deal with it in the court system. And so they know how to play the game. They know how to play the game, which is to take advantage of this whole process right now. So in the meantime, we can literally be going back and forth with lawyers. If they have lawyers, they have some sort of an immigration attorney, who knows, back and forth, back and forth. This can happen for months, if not years. And this person who owns the home is out of a home that they either rent out or even live in because they were on vacation. Go ahead, David.
Well, I said they got through with a loophole on this one because they were trying to get them to produce a lease. They didn't have one. And he produced a bill of something that he had paid for that had that address on it. So that was all the cops needed.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So they could show some sort of paperwork if they have something that they can show where they can lay claim to the property. And again, I come back to if you want to come back to the purely squatters' rights laws, right, that you would learn about in real estate school that are on the books. I've covered stories like this back when I was at Fox. I interviewed people Florida had very lax, it seemed like at the time, squatters laws where people just could go into a home and it was almost impossible for the banks to get them out of there. They couldn't get these people out of there.
Yeah.
And so, just based purely on the laws itself, it's keeping these people in these homes.
Right.
And you have no recourse.
I had a teammate, a pool teammate that he was homeless, basically had to live with his girlfriend for well over a year because he had rented a room out to somebody. And that guy filed a restraining order on him, ended up with the house. So the guy that owned the house, because he just rented a room to somebody, and that guy got a restraining order. He couldn't go into his own house for well over a year. So he had to live at his girlfriend's and that guy just lived there. And the courts were just like, no, yeah, I mean, just renting a room out.
Now in America, forget the illegal immigrant part of it. Like what you just described is what we would call in the real estate world, like a professional tenant, like someone who knows how to game the system. Right. And so they move in, not pay rent, and then go through the eviction process, but they don't care. They'll just keep going back and forth, getting paperwork
They just
signed.
buy themselves time to hop from place to place, and as soon as they get another place, then they know they've got at least 2 years before an eviction is filed.
And they can break into a home, show fake paperwork. Now they're technically a tenant in this new house. They don't even have paperwork. They never actually signed a lease, but they're taking advantage of the system. So this is all back to the open border, and Mexico saying, you guys have this open border on your side. This is allowing this to flow. Unless you close it down, this is going to continue to flow into Biden's America.
Caught on camera the moment migrants made a run to the border. You can hear people cheering, whistling, and celebrating that they can see their end goal in sight, El Paso. You can hear migrants chanting, "We are united," and one migrant telling the cameras, quote, "We're not doing anything to you," end quote. Francisco Guarduño is the migration delegate on the Mexican side of the border, and he says migrants making their way to the southern border will always be an issue if the United States continue to allow their open border policy.
As long as the United States continues to open the doors of its border and exceptionally allow passage to some groups, families, minors, vulnerable people, it is a call for more migrants to come.
Over the last couple of weeks, migrants have been riding on top of freight trains from central to northern Mexico as they make their way to the southern border.
So the USA Today has also broken down a number of these states where this is all happening. And to hear it from the USA Today, which of course is a liberal rag and an awful newspaper, but in this situation, they've actually cataloged exactly how this has unfolded. So prosecutors and politicians play a critical role in these scams. Local authorities have done little to assist homeowners for a variety of reasons, from political calculations to negligence. Instead, they force landowners to go into overtaxed housing courts. Exactly, right? And notoriously slow dockets. It often takes months or years to get an eviction order. So they know how to play these games, right? And they're telling them, well, we can't deal with it. So you just go and figure it out through the court system. No prosecution as well, because the people involved in committing crimes, from breaking and entering to fraud to forgery, yet they're rarely prosecuted. Squatting is not a particularly difficult problem to solve. It simply requires police and prosecutors to enforce existing laws. But they can't.
And most of them are undocumented, so you can't put this on their record. So if they then go to get another place, or it won't show up on any record of behavior at all, it's not trackable.
And the problem is, exactly, once they actually start signing leases and become trackable, that's the problem. So they're being encouraged to not sign any of this stuff. Like, don't have a paper trail, essentially. Just move into these houses. The common nuisance of squatting, the USA Today writes, reflects a breakdown in basic deterrence of our laws. Property offenses have been steadily downgraded as priorities in many cities, while prosecutions are viewed as politically risky for officials who do not want to be viewed as targeting people who are homeless.
I thought we're not supposed to call them homeless anymore. We're supposed to call them the unhoused, but okay.
I don't know. It's not just happening in the United States. Like Europe, if you think you're free from this, you're not. Squatters have been occupying buildings throughout Europe, doing the same thing in protest. This was a story in Berlin, where squatters occupying a series of buildings in Berlin, saying, we were taking over these residential buildings, and we can't afford to live here, so we're just going to take over these buildings. You can't do anything about it. So it's happening in Europe as well.
And there's really no, what's a way to prevent it? Like, what is something people could do to prevent it? I don't think there is anything other than do not leave your home.
Well, I mean, you get a security system, for one. That way you can be there to stop it happening, right?
I'm thinking a pit bull.
Yeah,
my next thought.
Get a dog. Get a dog. Get a gun. Arm yourself. Make sure and protect yourself. Band together as a community. This is the importance of neighbors, having a strong community, neighbors keeping an eye out on properties. Hey, you're gone. Mm-hmm. Let your neighbors know that you're going to be traveling for the next few days on business. Like, keep an eye out on our house. If you notice anything weird,
right.
Step in, do what you can do. But it's unbelievable. But a lot of this is, flowing right from Mexico. And I just co-authored a new report on this specifically. Some of the things we talk about in this report, we cannot talk about on YouTube. They're not happy with it. And it literally is how the U.S. government nonprofit organizations are banding together these NGOs, working with these Mexican cartels and human traffickers, and flowing right into the United States. So you can go grab this free report. I encourage all of you to read it. You can share it with people who don't know what's going on. Just go to redacted.inc/Mexico. It's unbelievable. And the Biden administration is totally facilitating this right under our noses, and in order to bring in additional voters and to completely destabilize the United States.
I have a few other ideas because I watched Home Alone for how to make sure that this doesn't happen to your house.
Get some, put some tacks on the ground.
Some glue and nails facing upwards on your stairs. Yeah.
In case Joe Pesci breaks in.
Right.
Yeah, but actually,
I think
I've actually heard read stories of that though, where people have booby trapped their house for something like that, and they go to jail.
Yes.
But that's
Kevin McAllister would not be safe in the year 2024.
I mean, it's crazy, right? You try to protect your own house and you're not there, and someone breaks in and you get in trouble for it. I mean, you're in trouble for trespassing on your own property, kicking some of these people out.
Yeah.
They got to change these laws. I mean, another way, David, to answer David's question, we've got to force these states to change their laws on the books, and also have prosecution and have enough money going into prosecution teams and law enforcement to stop this. When you defund the police and you pull back on prosecutions and you push this aside, like, oh, this is just a housing court issue.
Right.
No, it's not. It's not a housing. This is a crime.
Yeah, and it's not just white people that are being pushed out of their homes so we can celebrate because it's the end of colonialism. Like, these are black people, Latin people.
Yeah, literally having their homes taken over.
Everybody. It's not a racial issue here. It's about the fact that it seems true that globalists want you to own nothing, and they don't have respect for your private property because owning something means they own. If you own nothing, they own you. And that's what we're moving towards. So let us know what you think of this.
I really hoped you enjoyed watching this video. You know, YouTube thinks that you'll actually like this next video right here. It's personalized based on your own viewing habits. So if you watch the video, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think about it. And we will see you next time, everyone.